Twice before, we've talked with Christina Blizzard on the show about a terrible law called Toby's Law here in Ontario. Brought in with all the best intentions, as laws always are. This law would stop discrimination against transgendered people, basically men who have had their private parts cut off and want to live as women. While that may be a noble goal, some people would dispute that, what is indisputable is that other opportunists have used this as a way into protected women's places, change rooms, bathrooms, women's shelters, to actually get access to women. Christopher Hambrook, a convicted rapist, presented himself at a women's shelter, claimed he was a preoperative transsexual who went by a girl's name, and demanded to sleep in a women's shelter where he was given unfettered access to vulnerable women that he then assaulted. This was a loophole that he exploited, and it's a loophole that is being proposed at the federal level too. Bill C-279, the Transgender Rights Bill, passed the House of Commons and is now in the Senate. Joining us now to talk about this is Senator Don Plett of Manitoba, who opposes the bill. Senator Plett, welcome to the show. Would this federal version of the law be the equivalent of Ontario's version of the law?
Well, yes, Ezra, it would, and as you say, I am very opposed to the bill. I am the critic in the Senate on this this legislation, and as you referred to in the Toby's Law case, an individual saying that he is transgendered, and of course this goes beyond, as you say, having your private parts cut off. This is the Transgendered Bill 279, as Toby's Law is. If you just simply say you feel like the opposite sex, you need to be treated as such.
Yeah. Let me quote a section from the bill to show people. This is actually a summary of the law as proposed. If you put it on the screen here, this enactment amends the Canadian Human Rights Act to include gender identity as a prohibited ground of discrimination. It also amends the Criminal Code to include gender identity as a distinguishing characteristic protected under Section 318. That's the hate speech section, and as an aggravating circumstance. Let me just be clear about gender identity. As you just said, Senator Plett, that's simply a guy standing up and saying, I am a woman. I may have all my boy parts, but I declare I'm a woman, and if you dare challenge me, you're breaking the law, either the human rights law, the hate speech law, or a criminal law. It's no wonder they let Christopher Hambrook into the women's shelter. If they dared to stand up to him and say, get out of here, you pervert, they could have been charged. Am I right?
Well, absolutely, and there have been cases in the United States for sure where people have been charged, and in this particular case, people could have been charged as well. We have another case in Toronto where a girl that we have spoken to, a young 16-year-old girl who was in a Victoria's Secret store, her and some other girls were trying on clothes that they try on at a Victoria's Secret store. And there was a young man standing close, and they asked the staff there to ask this man to leave, and he said, no, I need to be recognized as being gender fluid, and I feel like a woman, and so I am allowed to stand here.
Jeez. Yeah, and the thing is, it's so absurd. Now, there may be the occasional genuine transgender person who says that, and even so, they're being extremely rude and oppressive to others. But what a magnet for any scammer. I mean, I remember when I was a kid, Senator Plett, there was this movie called Porky's. You know, it was all about peering through a hole in a girl's shirt. Like, it was a goofy frat boy movie. That was a comedy. Today, it's a farce that anyone, an 18-year-old fully heterosexual guy or a rapist like Christopher Hambrook, can say, oh, I'm a girl. How dare you say otherwise? If you try to remove me from this inappropriate situation, you will be charged. It basically renders young women and vulnerable women completely helpless.
Well, you're absolutely right. And Senator Mitchell, the sponsor of this bill in the Senate, has said to me when I have argued the bill in the Senate that there are no proven cases of this happening. And yet here we see a number of proven cases of this happening. And I don't have an issue if somebody takes hormone treatments, if somebody has an operation, if they indeed alter their sex, for them having these rights. But I've had people in my office, people who consider themselves trans fluid, which means that one day they feel like a woman and another day they feel like a man, and they then want access to women's change rooms, women's bathrooms, women's washrooms, when they feel like a woman, and say they are no threat. And I believe that many of them are no threat. However, as we see in Ontario, in the case that you cite, there are many people that can take advantage of this law. We have anti-bullying laws now. I support those anti-bullying laws, but we need to protect women and children, and that is why I'm doing this, for the protection of young girls and women.
Last question for you, Senator Plett. This bill is in the Senate now, but it started in the House. How the hell did this pass the House when the Conservatives have a majority there?
Well, clearly, I believe that some of the members, in all good faith, did not read all of the repercussions of this bill. There has been those comments made that this is similar to protecting the gay rights. This is not, as have been told very, very clearly, that only 5% of the transgender community is in fact homosexual, no more than the normal everyday folks. And so this is not about protecting gay rights. This is about protecting women and children and protecting them against people who could take advantage of them. So that's one reason why it may have passed the House.
Senator Plett, thanks for joining us today. You've got to stop in the Senate with those blind MPs passed in the House. Thanks for being here.